So welcome to my webinar tonight. It's on Venus joining the Moon, opening the Heart Chakra. And for those of you who haven't met me, welcome, hello. My name's Pam Carruthers, and my purpose is to help people navigate major life transitions gracefully with my soul astrology and spiritual life coaching. And this presentation, I'm talking about Venus. I'm talking about Venus, who is the goddess, and the 7 gates of initiation. I have done webinars before on this subject, but this one tonight is focusing very much on the heart. So tonight I'm going to go over some of the things that you might have seen before if you've been watching other webinars, but Venus is an evening star at this present time, and I'm looking at the 5 goddess overtones, which we all have one, and I'll show you the diagram so you can locate yours. And they have archetypes associated with them, so I'll briefly describe those. I'm going to be looking at the myth, the story of Inanna, and it's to do with heartbreak, but also the shadow. There's a strong shadow energy running at the moment, if you've noticed in politics in the US. We'll explore the 4th chakra, and I'm going to give you some ideas to celebrate this heart chakra, creating an altar. And I'm going to give you a meditation which is called From Conflict to Joy, to change beliefs around being worthy of love. And I thought it was by one particular author, but I found out it was actually given to me, but it was by a woman called Sagittarius. So I'm very grateful for that. She's a beautiful woman. I happen to have met her once, and she's quite a special woman. So also to prepare for a Venus ritual to help you release negativity, open your heart. And this image here is Inanna. She's an ancient Sumerian goddess. So Venus in the sky is the diamond. She's the brightest object. We call her a star, but she's not. She's a planet. Brightest object apart from the moon, of course. She orbits, I call her she, but really astronomers would say it's an it. But anyhow, she orbits between the sun and the earth. So in your chart, it can never be more than 47 degrees away from the sun. So it can only be in the same zodiac sign as your sun sign, or the sign either side. And Venus is a little bit like a hand mirror, the symbol, which I think everyone knows. It's on every lady's toilet. And it looks like a hand mirror. That's what it's looking at. So it's reflecting us back to the energy of the sun, which is our essence. The Venus principle. Venus relates, the planet of relationship and desire. Mars is about winning. Venus is desire. They're 2 different things, so some people actually think they're the same. Venus observes patterns in relationships and also in nature. It's very, very strong in nature, very much so. And the dynamic of Venus always is to bring people together. So it's a networker, a matchmaker, a hostess. So people who say, meet this person, read this book, they introduce us to the social life. And Venus, of course, makes things beautiful. Her environment has to be pleasing to the eye. So one suggestion, if you haven't done it yet, it's been a new moon, and been Diwali, we've had Halloween, but to make sure that your house is in good order in order to celebrate this particular opening of the heart. And what aspects of nature do you love? Birds, the land, the garden, flowers, of course, of Venus. And everything beautiful is to do with Venus. So as an evening star, Venus is very social, very similar to Libra. When it's a morning star, it's more about Taurus. And the shadow, I think we all know this one, vanity, indolence, being lazy, or being so busy to do one loving thing, the one loving thing we need to do for ourselves. And if you neglect Venus in any way, then the goddess is a little bit upset with you. So time to remedy that. Even if it's as simple as brushing your hair or putting on some new clothes, clean clothes or clean sheets on the bed, of course, that kind of a thing. But also cleaning the house, getting it ready. So tonight, this is focusing on something called the Synodic cycle and the Shamanic overtone. And now, the Synodic cycle is the phase of a planet in relationship to the sun. And when Venus is 10 degrees ahead of the sun, then it's rising as a morning star, and it will set before the sun. And that's called the heliacal rise. And in shamanic astrology, that's called the shamanic overtone. Don't worry about this if you don't understand it, it will become clear. So the heliacal rising was once considered a resurrection after darkness and the beginning of a new cycle. The Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Mesoamericans, amongst many others, began the Venus cycle with this heliacal rise. And for those of you who like links, the alabi.com website and the astrology website talks about this at length. You can also, of course, Google it. Now, last year, we had the Venus heliacal rise in the sign of Leo at 18 degrees, and that was on the 22nd of August, 2015, and this began this new shamanic cycle. And we're over halfway through because it's an 18-month cycle. So that was Venus as a morning star. Now she's changed. She's an evening star. So what's Leo all about? Leo, the Queen of Heaven, is all about female empowerment because Leo is said to be the birthplace of kings. And it's stationed very close to Regulus, which is one of the royal stars of Persia. And the reason it's a royal star is there are a lot of royalty who have that star significant in their charts. All leaders would have, especially, would have that connection. This is time for us all to rethink our relationships and our values, our sense of self-worth and self-love. Because Leo is very much about shining. Leo says, blow your own trumpet. No one else is going to. It's really important to do that. And a good affirmation, your independence is a foundation for your strength and success. Now, this independence is about standing on our own 2 feet. It's not about pushing people away and doing it all by yourself. I know I'm one of those people, control freak. But it is very much about having that strength, that inner strength. And that's why this card, Bast, the Egyptian goddess rather, with her pussycats there, you look at her, she's strong, she's wonderful, she's beautiful. So in your chart, you've either got Venus as a morning star or as an evening star. Hopefully the little diagrams might help you if you have your chart at hand. And this is called a tone in shamanic astrology, is when the shamanic process relates to 7 chakras and the myth of Inanna, which I will be talking through in a moment. Venus spends about 260 days as a morning star and has about 7 or 8 conjunctions with the moon during that time. Venus this year disappeared from April the 30th right up until July the 13th. And this only happens when Venus changes from morning to evening star. When she changes from evening to morning, she only disappears for about 13 days. Big difference, huge difference. Because when Venus disappears, what I call Venus people can lose power, can withdraw socially, or maybe feel unappreciated. And a couple of examples which I found very interesting. Margaret Thatcher, who was a Libran, she was forced out of power when Venus was invisible in the Underworld. David Cameron, also a Libran, resigned in that time period. It's when we had Brexit. Theresa May happens also to be a Libran, and she came to power just the very day that Venus reappeared. So the question is, did you disappear this year for that time? So, May, June, half of July. It can be, a time of retreat, a time of going within. And I noticed when it happened, a couple of years ago, that I absolutely did not feel like going out at all. It was going through the autumn, winter time. But very important to know this. So that diagram shows, here's Venus, morning star, head of the sun. Everything rises in the east, sets in the west. This is Venus now. She is now setting after the sun. So the story of Inanna, it's one of my favorite stories. Venus is associated with this myth. It's a very, very ancient myth, a Sumerian myth. And it's all about the Queen of Heaven. Here she is on the left. This is Inanna. And she is descending. She goes down into the underworld. And she's visiting her sister, Ereshkigal. And she's going to witness the funeral of Ereshkigal's husband. However, when she arrives, Ereshkigal is furious. And she declares that the upper world goddess has to be treated by the laws of her kingdom, and that she be brought naked and bowed low. Inanna is stripped of her power and her vestments, all her garments, at 7 gates, and then she's killed. She's rescued, that's the good news, and at each of those 7 gates, her life and her royal powers are restored. Now, as Inanna descends, she's submitting, she's surrendering, and she dies. So she's sacrificing herself for a deep feminine wisdom and for atonement. So these 7 gates represent the 7 chakras. So the Venus-Moon conjunctions each month are these gates. So this is an initiation, a sacred process that she goes through to meet the dark feminine. It's a psychological process to meet the shadow. And Ereshkigal symbolizes that destructive but also transformational mysteries of the underworld. As you can see, she's not completely human-like. She's got this animal head. And in many ways, she's described very much as a kind of monstrous, hairy beast. Very much the negative of the feminine. Now Venus retrograde joins the sun. That's what's going on here. So it's the same as the Mercury retrograde cycle as well. But Venus will join the sun for just 5 signs in your lifetime. And that is quite extraordinary. And Venus creates this wonderful dance. Hopefully you've seen this before. And it's all because of this retrograde cycle she goes through, the forward cycle. And this is what she's doing. It's quite beautiful. It averages 72 years. So from 1966 right through to 2047, the significance is just 5 signs: Aries, Scorpio, Gemini, which moves into Cancer, Capricorn or Aquarius, and Leo, Virgo. And they are transitions from one sign back to another, and that's the procession, what they call the procession of the sign, is occurring. But they're very slow and incremental over years, and only by a couple of degrees at a time. I'm crediting Erin Sullivan, who's written a whole book about this. It's a very, very good book on Venus. Now, currently, here we are. We are in Leo over here, August 2015. That's when Venus is 22 degrees retrograde. And you can see, if you notice, it's quite interesting. I can describe this pentacle without taking my little cursor off. That's one of the things about Venus. Venus is all about beauty. So on June 2016, that's when Venus was 16 degrees and went direct, so it's picking up the Gemini energy at that time. this diagram, which I have shown before, and I'm going to be sending this out. I think many people have asked for it, so I will be sending it out. And what it does, I credit, Kaylin Castell. It's on her website. She's inspired me, and I thank her very much. But all you need to know is the year of your birth and the date of your birth, but you don't need to know the time or the place. That's what's so useful here. So if I go now, I think, oh, where are we now? We're in 2016. What you do is you go back. Therefore, I go back August 22nd, 2015. That overtone, as I've said, is 18 of Leo. So you can see, hopefully, just by looking at the colours, we've got, haven't we? We've got red, we've got blue, we've got white, we've got violet, we've got green. So you can see they keep repeating. And that, the Aries one, actually, yes, the Aries one will move into Pisces in 2025. But you can see that's been going on since 1921. You see the diagram doesn't go back before July 1916. But these are very, as I said, very, very significant because they are an overtone in your life, and you will often meet people or work with people who share the same as you do. And if you notice, I'm going to be on this side, I was born in 1949, and of course, July 1948 till February 1950, we are all 29 degrees of Gemini. So we are all to do with the archetype of the messenger, the journalist. And that's a deep aspect, a social aspect. So what this means, the overtone of Venus, all right, is secondary to the sign that Venus was in at the time of your birth. But it tells you what archetype of the feminine was being integrated into the collective psyche of humanity at the time you were born. So it's giving you an additional flavour to your personal Venus, as does knowing where Venus was in her cycle at the time you were born. In other words, was she an evening star or a morning star? And which chakra? That's a really interesting one. Which of these 7 gates, and sometimes it's 8, was she triggering or activating? And I can tell you this, I have to use astrology software to do this, but it's very, very interesting how it gives another dimension to you and your understanding of Venus, because it's how your mum was while she was carrying you. What was going on in her life? Did she feel appreciated, or did she feel invisible? That might be true if you've got the Sun and Venus side by side in your chart. So if we compare Venus in your birth chart with this overtone, you can look at your personal values, which is your Venus in your chart, with your dharma or your purpose as part of your collective energy. Those people born around that time as you. So these archetypes, Aries, of course, is the pioneer, first sign of the zodiac. I say, of course, because I know it's the first sign. It's the huntress, it's the scout, it's the warrior, it's Diana, the huntress, Artemis. Gemini, which is mine, the magician, the magical child, the scribe, of course, the writer. Hermes is Mercury, the messenger, or it can be the clown, the student, the trickster, it's negative, and Pallas Athena, and the goddess of learning, Saraswati, in Hindu astrology. Leo, of course, is the queen. It's Bast, as I've just shown you. Inanna, or hero of Juno. Every nation, every country will have its own archetype. I've only given you a few ideas here. Scorpio, if you're born in the Scorpio, that's the shaman. That's the vampire. That can be the seductress or the witch. Very much the dark feminine. Kali, Lilith, or Pele, goddess of the volcano. Capricorn. Just before Leo, we were in the Capricorn shamanic overtone, and that's the wise woman, the elder, the matriarch, the sage. It's Hecate, the goddess at the crossroads, and the crone. and the Aquarian energy. I've just seen somebody who's got that, and she works very much in the energy of the group and raising consciousness. So it's an anarchist or a rebel, but also an innovator, a liberator, a revolutionary, and Lilith and Eggshell. So, Venus and the goddess, the gates of initiation. The conjunctions that Venus makes every month with the moon, as I've said, correlates with the 7 gates or chakras that Inanna passes through. And the first corresponds to the crown chakra. That's when she's going down into the underworld. That's her as a morning star. And that's when she's giving up her crown. The last is the root chakra, when she gives up her life. However, now she's regaining power and activating the heart chakra. So we've had the root, we've had the sacral, we've had the power chakra, and now we reach the heart. So here are the dates. So as I've said, she disappeared April 30th, reappeared July the 13th. And the first root chakra was on August the 4th, and that was at 28 of Leo. So that was the same as last year. They're very much to do with Regulus, the royal star. Then on September 3rd, this was the creativity. This is the sacral chakra, and that was at 5 Virgo. Be interesting if any of these particular degrees and signs are, activating in your chart, especially. The solar plexus, personal power, that was when she regained her ring of power. And that was on October the 3rd this year at 13 of Scorpio. I did write about it in my newsletter, and that was when the famous person, Kim Kardashian, had all her jewels stolen after the Paris fashion show, especially her ring being given to her by her husband, which was worth a fortune, millions. But I thought that was quite interesting because, one, it's Scorpio, which is very much about things that are invisible, unseen, and it was a pretty nasty attack on her. But now, here we are, the heart chakra. And this is when Inanna regains her breastplate. And it's happening November 3rd in the UK at 19 degrees of Sagittarius. I'll show you the chart in a moment. The throat chakra, looking ahead, December 3rd, and that's the necklace. And then the brow chakra, this is the third eye, which is regaining her royal staff. And that's on January the 2nd at 28 of Pisces. Actually, that's not true. It's 28 of Aquarius. I know that because I've just been looking at that chart. It is. I've been tricked. And I'm co-hosting, co-facilitating a residential retreat with my friend Catherine Varley, who does yoga and qigong and all wonderful things, down in Seaford at Florence House. And we will be looking at that particular alignment and reenacting the Stargate. I'd love you if you'd like to come and join me. It'd be great fun. Join us, rather. And then the crown chakra is at the end of February, and that's when she regains her power, her crown, and that's at 13 of Aries. So here's the chart. This is the exact time. So it's at 5:32 a.m. in London, GMT, Universal Time. Here, where are we? Here she is. Here's Venus, 19 degrees, 14 minutes with the moon, very close to Saturn. They are in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius in astrology is governed in turn by Jupiter. Here it is. And Jupiter at the moment, for a whole year, is moving through the sign of Libra. So what's fascinating is that these energies are exchanging sign, Venus and Jupiter. Jupiter is in Venus's sign, Venus is in Jupiter's sign. It's a little wide, and it's what we call a sextile, but I very much see this as an exchange of very positive energy. Jupiter is about truth, integrity, honor, and also abundance. Jupiter is good fortune. Jupiter blesses us. In Vedic astrology, it's Ganesha, the remover of all obstacles. And Jupiter is, let's just say, it's got some problems. It's making a square to Pluto. It's going to meet opposite Uranus. However, in astrology, there is never a perfect chart. Really, there is not. And the squares, the oppositions, challenge us to take action. So the ritual, which I'll talk about later, the ritual is very much to focus on the positive aspect of Jupiter and Venus and to set your intention, because the power of intention is what we're manifesting in our lives day by day, moment by moment. Here we go. So, the dark feminine. One interesting observation is that Lilith is the dark moon, and Lilith is currently transiting through Scorpio. She was the original Sumerian queen of heaven, and she's a goddess even older than Inanna. The Hebrews took the goddess and they transformed her into the first wife of Adam. Now, she was his equal, and she must have been an Aquarian, I think. She refused to lie underneath him while having sex. But Adam complained. He complained to Yahweh, who's God, but not really God. And anyhow, she was banished, and demonized. And God replaced her with Eve, made from Adam's rib. She was subservient to him, Eve, which meant that women could only worship God via a male priest and not by direct contact. So here is Lilith. Notice, she's quite snake-like, but she does represent power. I'm very interested in what's going on in America, and Hillary Clinton is a Scorpio. She's very much been demonized by the Trump campaign, especially, I'm not going to repeat some of the things he's called her. One of the least objectionable things is he's called her that nasty woman. But there's certainly been some really heavy-duty projection on her. And Scorpio is quite a secretive sign. And Hillary has a moon in Pisces. We don't know her birth time, but she definitely has it. So she has got a sensitive side. And I have been thinking about, what is this doing to her psychologically and spiritually? Now, there's also the shadow of revenge going on here in this story of Inanna, because Ereshkigal kills her sister because she lacks empathy. And Ereshkigal is heartbroken because her husband's died. She might even be giving birth. So by killing her, she's definitely getting revenge. And Chuck Spezzano, my mentor, teacher of many, many years, I love his work, he's saying revenge, and this is very much connected to heartbreak. So it can come from a rejection or heartbreak that we've set up to pay off guilt. We get to do things our way. We hide from our purpose while pretending we're too small to fulfill our potential. Revenge is a dead end. It's built on power struggles and pain. And revenge always stems from a revenge on our parents. You haven't brought me up, as well as you could have done. Look at all of how I'm suffering, all of this. But it's also a revenge on God, because we're blaming him for a world that we've created and circumstances that we've set up. And this is very much the ego's plan, I have to say. Often people are very unaware of this. I mean it, I really do mean this. But we're trying to get something. And in this plot, right, with our parents and God, we're becoming the prodigal child. We can make bad choices. We can squander our inheritance. It means we're a child of God. We can endure suffering and independence all the time, being too proud to ask for help. And this, we've taken on rebellion to a new height, project our feelings and mistakes on God, and then disbelieving in him, if not by word, then by action. So I'd like you to have a little think about that. You know, it's a nasty little shadow running this one. And I am a Scorpio, and I do remember once upon a time, I did get revenge on somebody. And I'm not going to go into the story, but I really, it was not deliberate, you know, at the time. And this is how it can work. You know, we unconsciously set something up. And revenge is a dish, you know, best served cold. It's not a nice thing. I can truly feel that. So also, Lilith. Lilith is telling us, all of us, men and women, to take back our power. So where are the places you may have lost or given away your power? Now, this is very much the third chakra. And, you know, we build chakra by chakra. And I do know, you know, some of us, one chakra is not as strong as others. So what beliefs may we have that denying our power? If you're a woman, have you been told that powerful women never might find mates, or that women can't have power because that would make them unfeminine? Have you maybe been teased or shunned or ostracized by others when you've stepped into your power? This, of course, can apply to men as well as women. Are you afraid of misusing your power to dominate or manipulate? I often, when I do workshops and I talk about a shadow, the question is, you know, do you die rather than be like this? Or do you get, actually, sometimes I am. So, you know, and we've all got shadows. None of us are divine, you know, we've all got these. So it's very important to, once we have an awareness of a shadow, then we busted it and it can no longer hold its sway over us. So Lilith is saying, the way to wholeness for us now lies in acknowledging and accepting our power. Now, Venus and the moon in Sagittarius is interesting because Sagittarius in the tarot is the Temperance card. And the key word is integration. And it's a very beautiful tarot card because this is a heavenly winged angel. It has a solar disc headband, you know, you can see it there, and it pours a mercurial life substance from a golden to a silver chalice. And upon her flowing robes is a triangle within a square. One foot rests on the earth, the other on life-giving waters. And at the intersection, many plants and flowers grow. And stretching away from this fertile source, curves a road leading to a crown-shaped light blazing beyond the hills. So this, people have said, this Archangel Gabriel. And the meaning is finding a balance between the outer and the inner, between the light and the dark, the active and the passive. In other words, all our oppositions. And this, I credit here, is from Tadman's book on the tarot, which I really like. It's still available if you haven't heard of it. It's just called The Tarot by A.T. Mann. It's available on the internet. It's very cheap. It's got some lovely meditations in it. So also, if you remember, I mentioned that this is happening, this Venus-Moon conjunction, at 19 degrees and 14 minutes. And 14 is the number to do with temperance in the tarot. 19 is the sun in the tarot. So we've got the sun and we've got the angel. Who can ask, how can it get any better than that? So I'm going to give you now this little guided meditation. And this is called From Conflict to Joy. And it's about changing our beliefs around being worthy of love. It's primarily about uncovering the various thought structures that cause inner conflict. And this very awareness of those thoughts and their consequences on our life frees us from their control. So in awareness, we don't cry, we don't moan about our conflicts, but rather we can laugh our way out of it into joy. As I said, it was given to me via Samadhi of the Oneness movement. So if you'd like to get centered and to hold your spine erect and close your eyes, I won't be showing this vision, you can't read it at the same time, I'm going to be speaking it to you. So we're going to take 5 conscious breaths. So inhale deeply through your nose and slowly through your mouth, because this kind of breathing can help really center your attention and your focus. So I'd like you to ask yourself, what exactly is the emotion that you're experiencing right now? And please understand, it's only a feeling or an emotion. It's not your feeling or your emotion. It's just passing through you at this moment in time, but it doesn't belong to you. So this is our first aha moment. So once you've identified and acknowledged the emotion, ask yourself, what is the thought process that is driving this emotion? Often it's just a few thoughts that drive people in their entire lifetime, because these thoughts can keep repeating themselves over and over again, leading to the same emotional experience. Do you see how a simple thought like, I'm not worthy of love, can take control and ruin our entire life? And to have that understanding can be a massive liberation. And the second aha moment in this meditation. So if we realize how a thought process is responsible for all our conflict, repeat this affirmation with me 3 times. No person, no situation can cause me suffering. It is only my thoughts fostered in unawareness that cause me suffering. I will repeat it. No person, no situation can cause me suffering. It is only my thoughts fostered in unawareness that cause me suffering. For the 3rd time. No person, no situation can cause me suffering. It is only my thoughts fostered in unawareness that cause me suffering. Now we follow with another affirmation, which we say 3 times. No person can free me from my suffering. Awareness alone can free me from my suffering. No person can free me from my suffering. Awareness alone can free me from my suffering. A 3rd time. No person can free me from my suffering. Awareness alone can free me from my suffering. So now ask yourself, is this thought true? And that's the belief I asked you about earlier. And if the answer is no, then the very seeing as to how an unrealistic thought has taken control of your life, i.e., I'm not worthy of love, it can cause you suffering. It's been causing you suffering. Now you can liberate you from its control. Because awareness is freedom. It's like catching the thief while he's trying to steal. He can no more do it. The answer is yes. You do believe that you're not worthy of love, for instance, then ask yourself if you want to center your entire life on that single thought process. Is it worth living life repeating this thought to oneself again and again and live in unhappiness, even if it were factual? There are so many other beautiful experiences in life that are being forgotten because of obsession with this thought process. So once again, you will only see how pointless it is to fight with your reality and live your life in conflict. This will help you come to an acceptance of whatever is there. And acceptance is a hugely important healing process. So finally, I'd like you to visualize standing before you the person or the situation that you believed was the cause of your suffering. Whoever comes to mind is usually the right person. And it could well be one or other of your parents. So I'd like you now to smile at them, to realize how they were never responsible for your suffering. Smile at them and repeat this affirmation in your heart. I am at peace with myself and with you. I am at peace with myself and with you. I am at peace with myself and with you. And bless them. And wish them well. Wish them well-being. Because this is the beginning of compassion. And compassion comes from our hearts. So if this situation you're still struggling with, just remember it. Smile at it. And just say, I am at peace. I accept this situation completely. And I invite you to end this meditation by feeling gratitude to everyone who's touched your heart, everyone who's helped you in your life. Remember the wonderful moments in your life and feel grateful. Feel grateful to the presence of love. So when you're ready, open your eyes and come back into the room. So finally, a ritual. Now, you can do this after sunset because Venus and the Moon conjunction is happening in the early hours in the UK. It might be okay if you are in Australia or if you are in America maybe. But also, if you do it after sunset, if it is a clear night, which would be wonderful, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, but after sunset, Venus is with the Moon. It's also with Saturn. So it will be in the west. So you look due west, everything rises in the east, it all sets in the west, every single planet and star does that. So if you do this on the night of November 3rd, this is about taking time for self-love. And this, you'll see this about 5:30 in the UK now. I'll give you some idea. Be prepared. So pink is the colour to do with Venus, pink and green both, or the heart chakra. If you haven't already, I've been buying roses now for quite some time. I never used to buy roses, but I've become addicted to them. So pink, buy pink roses. Obviously, light candles. You can burn rose or geranium or jasmine essential oil and create an altar for Venus, some special place. Invite and place an image of Venus or the goddess on your altar. Or it's just something that you love. It's all about what you love. And it's rather nice to dress up, to be the Empress or Emperor, if you are, of course, a man. But dress up, just wear something that you like, that is pleasing to you. Beautiful music, of course, is Venus's domain. And I suggested this before, and it's a wonderful, wonderful album. It's called The Gift of Love, and it's all the poetry of Rumi, and it's spoken by various actors and actresses. It's quite delicious. It's by Deepak Chopra, and you can find it on YouTube, so you don't even have to buy it. It's about 45 minutes long, so it's just the perfect music. Now, this is something that I have done, and I did it in a group earlier this year on creativity and abundance. So what is your heart's desire? This would be a perfect time to write your wish list on pink or green paper or whatever paper is pleasing to you, but nothing scrappy. Make it special. And look for your spiritual, your financial, your relationship, your health goals, and write those down on that piece of beautiful paper. And then good idea is to laminate it. And the reason being, and I have got one myself, I'm going to make a new one, is you can find it. It doesn't get lost, and it's quite substantial. And then the idea is to read it every day. It won't take you very long. But as you read it, you put your finger on the actual words you've written. And you do this handwriting, much better, because it's coming from your heart. So as you do that, you are connecting physically, with the words as well. It goes deep into the brain. It's a lovely thing to do. And a Venus mantra, this is a Vedic Venus mantra. You repeat them 108 times, and it's Om Klim Shrim Sukra Namaha. And that's the spelling. I'm going to be elaborating a little bit this more in a follow-up email to you all, because it's a very beautiful expression to invoke Venus. And the mantras are very sacred and very easy. You can do no harm with a mantra. So you're communicating directly. It'd be a lovely thing to do just for a month. And I used to do this for the sun, so I'm going to start the one for Venus myself. Walking the talk was a good idea. So the image of the Empress. Here she is. Isn't she beautiful? And it's rather interesting, of course, we've just had a TV series in the UK about Queen Victoria, who of course became the Empress. And where I live, we have statues for her as the Empress. I mean, she lived such a long time. Anyhow, here she is, the Empress. And the affirmation, also from Tadman's book, I nurture my creative potential as a gateway for my highest personal fulfillment. I give love and support to others to express my feeling of inner peace and accept their beauty and affection with wisdom. So look at her beauty. She's in her garden. She is fully clothed, of course, in her beautiful robes. And this is Venus. In many tarots decks, she's actually pregnant, so she's very fertile. So Venus, the evening star, shines once more. And I also will be writing a little astrological ritual that you can also follow if you enjoy doing that. I have given some before. I know people often like them. And I will email that to you on the 2nd of November, which I'm talking tonight on the 1st, so that is tomorrow. So here, this is me again. And if you'd like to explore your relationships, if you've got a problem at the moment, I use cards. For those of you who know me, I love using card decks. And I have one called the Love Pack by Chuck Spezzano. I've used it in workshops and it's incredibly relevant, the cards that people pick. So if you'd like to explore that, I'm going to give a special offer. It's my birthday in a week's time. And just for November, and something I don't normally do, so take advantage of me, so to speak, £60 for a 60-minute session using these cards, of course, and in conjunction with your chart. I always look at charts. So if you're interested, just email me. It's pam@healingstars.com. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you, talk to you soon.